Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live stream. Today we're going to be doing some deck techs from our patrons. We're going to be going over 6 different deck tech lists. And if you guys would like to have your deck featured on the show, then you guys can join our Discord and get more information. You guys can use the link down below in the description to sign up for our Patreon. This is a special tier for renowned or higher. You can submit 1 list per month, in addition to a bunch of other cool perks like submitting bounty deck lists for us to play on the show. The next tier up does monthly Patreon games. You will get like signed tokens and a bunch of other cool perks. Quick to start the video, quick shout out to the sponsors of the segment, and that's going to be Moxfield. So all of the deck lists you will see featured here today are on Moxfield, and you guys can find them down below. We have 2 Moxfield accounts, one for like community deck tech type deck lists, and then the one for our main show, which is Decked Out. And Tales of Adventure, if you guys like any of the decks you see here or would like to pick up any cards for decks you're working on, you guys can use our link and discount code down below in the description. You'll get 5% off if you use Decked Out. Okay, Veggie, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, our first deck list is submitted by Twilight Mirrorbox. And it is the first of F11. First of 6 deck techs, and we're going to be looking at Bellor, the Dark Master.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that right?
I have no idea.
Okay.
So yes.
Great. Now this is where you take over because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay. Bellor, the Dark Master. You already know that it's going to be demons. It's a demon commander. I mean, it's pretty hefty on its own, 6 mana for a 6/5 flyer, but when it enters, you draw X cards and lose X life for X number of demons you control, and if that wasn't enough, then you also, whenever another demon enters, then it deals damage equal to its power to any target. I've seen a couple different builds of this deck before, but they all at least start with, it's a bunch of demons, and then we figure out where to go from there. So this one, do we want stacks? I think. No, not stacks. We want the grid. Oh.
I think that's the one we usually use.
Yeah. Okay. We don't. Yeah. Okay. We have some planeswalkers. And even one that kind of synergizes, because Ob Nixilis does care whether or not you control a demon or devil when you +1. And then Chandra does have some synergy with the deck overall, but we'll get to that in a moment. But it's cool to see her getting played, because new card, and like that's a pricey planeswalker. But you get some pretty powerful abilities, and in this case, it's going to work out really well because you can add mana and get some cards to play. You can make a copy of a creature that dies at end of turn, or you can spread around 8 damage. And then Tybalt here is just holding off life gain and does make devils, specifically not demons. Makes little devils, but at least Ob Nixilis cares about that.
Also, not letting your opponents gain life, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correct, right?
Yes.
So that also maybe seems, kind of relevant in a deck where you're like Terror of the Peaksing, essentially.
Yeah.
Seems cool.
There are only 11 creatures in this whole deck.
Well, the nice thing is that the ability from the commander is just when it enters, so there are like rooms and stuff that now make 6/6 demons. I feel like there's a lot of demon tokens that you can use to manipulate that without actually having a high creature count.
That's true. It does feel strange, at least just looking at the numbers of a commander that cares about the number of demons you control and then only having 11 creatures. But we're definitely going to see some other ways to get demons onto the board. But I think nearly everything here is a demon, and if it's not, there's a good reason. So we have a bunch of demons that are just like generically powerful, and then we have some clone effects like the Glasspool Mimic, Oh, and that brings me to my first point of the day. This goes for everybody. Play more MDFC lands. I think, as far as the 6 lists that we will see today, this might be the only one.
That, and in fairness, that is your point every live stream.
And that's why I'm making it at the beginning for all of them, so I don't have to say it again.
Which we will anyway, every deck list. So
play more MDFCs. They are, especially the black one, Fell the Profane, which is destroy a creature. The red one, Pinnacle Monk, which returns an instant or sorcery to your hand. And the blue one, Sink into Stupor, which can bounce a permanent or a spell. All are almost always worth a spot in your deck over a basic.
And if you don't want to run them, you can send them to us, because we're always building like 20 decks at a time and we don't have enough. So feel free to, ship them over here if you don't want to use them.
Yes.
Like, needing to proxy the flip cards is so annoying, but also I just don't want to spend $5 7 times on the same card.
Yeah, I think we probably bought out the greater Portland area.
Oh yeah,
all of those. Let's see. Yes, don't forget that in the great combination of Hidetsugu and Kairi, there is Demon in there. And this is a particularly good one to clone as well, because it has an enter and a dies ability. But yeah, as far as the selection of demons, there's not a lot of synergy because there just aren't that many demons. So we just went with generically powerful ones. And that is pretty much going to be fine. We did get a nice new one from Duskmourn, and it entering makes each opponent sacrifice a non-token enchantment and a non-token creature. So that's pretty strong. And then Orvar, Changeling, is a demon and makes copies of things, but you have to target it with an instant or sorcery. Okay. We have 27 instant and sorceries. And here we see where the deck is headed. Molten Duplication, make a copy of an artifact or creature. Quasi-Duplicate, make a copy of a creature you control. Self-Reflection, copy. Twin Flame, copy. Electro-Duplicate, copy. Cackling Counterpart allows you to copy. There are a lot of ways to clone your demons. So that's already good with your commander, because even though they're legendary, they will enter, you'll get that trigger to draw and lose life, and then it'll the original copy sees the new one enter, and that will then shoot something for 6 damage.
And not all of them are legendary, right? Like, there are a couple here that aren't.
Right, yeah, that's what I mean, is even if your only target is your commander, that's still good. And then on top of that, you have these non-legendary ones, which are pretty strong, especially getting around the additional casting cost for this is nice. Yeah, so we're hoping to land one of these stronger demons and then just copy the poop out of it. Some other cards in here. There's Burn Down the House and Blight Grenade as our board wipes. I'm not entirely sure about the Burn Down the House choice here. It makes Devils on its other option, which is not a demon. And we don't really have, aside from Ob Nixilis, any demon and devil synergies.
I was also thinking it Burn Down the House probably gets around. I know a lot of demons have 6 booties, but we only have not even our commander. We just have the one with a 6 booty, which is not a lot. I feel like there's a lot of 6/6 demons, but we didn't use them. So the Blight Grenade does the thing, but not the Burn Down the House.
Yeah. So I don't think that I'm missing something here, but that might be an area where something could be adjusted. Oh, that's the other thing I'm forgetting. I always like when these are submitted, if the creator of the deck gives me gives us some sort of direction to go with this deck tech. This one in particular, we're looking for 5 cards to cut.
Ah.
And so for me, that would be one that's on the chopping block.
Did I export this incorrectly? It only has 100 cards?
It has 100 cards. I believe
there
that
a
is correct.
sideboard?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we're just looking for like.
They just have 5 things in mind that they would like to put in.
Right.
Okay. It's a little hard to cut without knowing what they want to put in.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wish we had the sideboard for it. So that way, like, if they're all 5 creatures, then, like, we can replace, like, better creatures. But that's a little tough.
Yeah, I kind of approached it as, what are 5 cards that I think you could find a better this in it? So I think for sure Burn Down the House. Even if that's just, like, Blasphemous Act or something, I think is a better choice. There's a lot of, I think this is, there's a lot of artifact removal in this. I don't know if this is a meta call, but we have By Force to destroy any, like, X artifacts. Shattering Spree, which is kind of the same thing because they replicate, although you can only use red mana for it. Then there was, Rakdos Charm can hit an artifact. Prismari Command can hit an artifact. K Command can hit an artifact. Untimely Malfunction can hit an artifact.
I like all of those. I like the spells that are not necessarily designed to hit an artifact, but you can as a bonus, which makes the other 2 kind of not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say By Force is cool because you're always going to get a 3-for-1. Like, there's always going to be Soul Rings and Arcane Signets and whatever that you can hit. So I'm fine with it. But I feel like once you have Rakdos Charm, Prismari, ultimate Malfunction, I don't feel like you need that spot.
I agree. And in fact, Shattering Spree is one of the ones on the chopping block for me. In particular, you have a copy of it already. By Force and Shattering Spree are the same thing, except Shattering Spree requires red mana only in a 3-color deck. So unless, like, all 3 of your opponents, like, your local pod is like all artifact decks, you can probably cut this. Okay. In our instance, we do have some interaction as well. We have, like the removal there. I like seeing Bolt Bend because almost all of your demons are going to be power 4 or greater. Artifacts, we have a solid ramp package. Besides the typical Soul Ring Signet, we have the 3 in-color Guild Signets. We have Urza's Incubator. Seance Board, which is a very fun demon-specific mana rock.
Does Demon Mirror or Curse Mirror come into play as a copy of the thing, or is it? Oh, so that's a real cheap trigger.
Exactly. But we've done this check a couple times. I think we should examine the Urza's Incubator check because this is
not enough.
It only reduces specifically creature spells. So you have the 11 creature spells plus your commander. You do get the advantage of most anybody else is not going to be playing demons, so this symmetry of the card is not super important. But we don't have like ways that we're recasting these. I don't know that I want that over just another rock.
I like it a little bit more in decks where the commander's pretty pricey and I want a discount, especially with commander tax.
Mm-hmm.
But I still don't think 11 other creatures is quite enough for me. But I will say I would be willing to go lower than if it were a lower CMC commander.
Mm-hmm. We do have some old school rocks. These are the Alara ones. I'm not particularly a fan of these. I feel like anytime that I see these, it's usually just because the person likes them. There are so many other better 3-mana rocks. But if there's some sort of like connection to the set or something, keep them. But for sure, I would cut and replace these with better rocks. The one that comes to mind is like Relic of Sauron is really good. It is a Grixis specific mana rock. It's like 4 mana and taps for 2 mana of any Grixis combination, and it draws you cards repeatedly. I think that would be pretty great here, replacing the Incubator or either of these. Enchantments. We're triple ley lining. I think this is interesting.
What about the new 6-mana enchantment from Foundations that every upkeep copies a thing, makes a new token copy of it?
Yes, that brand new one.
I mean,
Extravagant Replication.
Was it a reprint? I don't actually know.
But yes, it is a reprint, but that seems like totally what this deck would want.
1 point.
You know, you always have the struggle of it's an upkeep trigger, so you're gonna have to survive a rotation. But as long as and you have some blue to stop anything that's gonna kill it, and hopefully you have like your commander and another target. So,
but it copies like anything, not just creatures, right? So like the enchant, like you have a ton of enchantments here. Like getting extra copies of all your rooms. Yeah, you have to open them again, but like there are a ton of things that your opponent you have that your opponents aren't going to be able to interact with super well.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen that the point of this deck is to copy your stuff. I think a repeatable version of that is totally what this deck would want. Leyline of the Void, I don't know if this is in here for a particular like local meta reason. I don't think that it's good in general for Commander, because it doesn't do anything for you. It only does things to stop what other people are doing. So I feel like I'm down a card if it starts in my opening hand, and I certainly don't want to pay 4 mana for it.
Yeah, it does seem like a meta choice.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to Tear Bear, welcome. Glad that you are a fan of the show. And Card Lounge, new viewer, just finding us on Twitch and YouTube. Welcome. Oh, these are patron deck techs if you guys are just joining.
The Leyline of Resonance, I think is pretty cute here. I always like to think of the Leylines like, am I willing to pay 4 mana for the effect? And then the starting your open hand is a very occasional bonus. We do have a lot of things, and that copies all of your clone spells. So I think this one is worth it. And Leyline of Anticipation, not really a lot of synergy for giving yourself flash in this deck, but I mean, I'm a big fan of playing at instant speed and doing all my stuff on my opponent's turn, so I can't say to cut this.
It does allow you to, you know how we were talking about needing to have your demons survive a round. If you're always flashing them in on the end of somebody else's turn, then it does offer you some additional protection.
Right. All the more reason to put the extravagant replication in. Okay. We have some rooms. This one copies. Great. That's what we're trying to do. And if you manage to, excuse me. If you manage to unlock the Fractured Realm, then that is copying all of your ETBs and LTBs.
LTB?
Yeah, delicious sandwich. Leave the battlefield. Yeah, this is one of the few ones that does both. It's just if a triggered ability of a permanent you control triggers, that's it, double it. So double Bellor and all of your other clone stuff.
Hey, Taylor's asking, how do I submit a deck? I believe I am a renowned patron. So that's going to be in our Discord. Once you, through the Patreon app, you can link your Discord, which will give you access to all of our special Discord channels. And each perk has a different channel for you to use. You'll submit your deck lists there. There's pinned comments on how to do that. We actually have another show that we will be doing on Saturday. And there are still some spaces for you to submit a list. You can submit one every single month, and we basically do shows based on the number of submissions that we get. So yeah, make sure you jump into the Discord. You can always DM me if you have any questions.
Okay, we have some more devil stuff. I'm suspicious that I've missed something, because there is a good number of devil cards in here that don't seem to synergize with the deck, but maybe there's something going on there. But I think almost all of those are cuttable if not. Here's one of the ways that we're making demon tokens with Ritual Chamber. I mean, like 5 mana for a 6/6 flyer. Good rate.
And the card draw. And we're often going to have a demon on board, so it also drains your opponents. A lot of decks are just running that because it's good, and if the demon dies, then you just eat the damage because you're just happy for the effect regardless, but you're just even safer in this list.
Right. More copies. if you have this out and you clone one of your things, then it also clones it again. The Virtue of Courage is a fine card. I don't know if it is completely necessary here, but it's got 2 effects that are usually relevant, especially since Bellor is going to be dealing non-combat damage. And then we have more Panharmonicon effects, and the Warstorm Surge is certainly going to close out the game if Bellor itself is not. Then we have lands. Ta-da! All right, so we've taken a look through the list.
Is it enough lands?
It is enough lands.
It passes the test. 36
lands, 37 including the Glasspool Mimic. And Grixis is certainly a more mana-hungry color. Plus, we have enough ramp. I'd feel pretty good that I could cast the spells I wanted to in this.
All right, so our goal, 5 cuts.
Yes.
What we're thinking first is burn down the house.
Yes. I'm. Oh, okay. So here, I'll give you the 5. I had that was on my list of like as I was going through. This is something I put on the chopping block. What I cut it down to, Shattering Spree for 4, for sure. We already have that. We have a bunch of ways to get rid of artifacts, and this is very red mana intensive.
More than enough.
Tibble. I don't think that preventing opponents from gaining life is relevant enough, especially with only 1 copy of this effect, and the Devils are not really doing much for us either here. It's a fine card, but I just don't think that it is necessary. And it's not doing anything for us forward.
Douglas is asking, so 11 creatures enough? The clone effects are great, but we don't have enough to, if we don't have enough creatures to clone them. I will say we have like the room that makes the demon token. We have devils. We have other cards that make creatures in addition to the 11. So it's a choice, but I would have more demons. I think there's a lot of really cool demons to pick from, but I think that it's a way to build the deck. Thoughts?
It would be one of my big notes is I would want to have more targets, and there are so many good ones. The three that I thought of immediately were Balrog of Moria, which first of all, you can cycle for 4 to make 2 treasures, so it helps to ramp you into your other demons if you cycle it early. And when it dies, you exile a creature for each opponent. So if you're cloning that is removing a creature on each opponent's board every time that you clone it because it's legendary. I think Lord Xander would be a lot of fun if that's your way. If that's the way that you have fun. Maybe not so much for your opponents, but it has an enter trigger and a leaves trigger, both that are pretty powerful. And then Crabomination is a demon. It's non-legendary, so you get to keep those copies of it. And
I love looking at typal decks because there are things that you're like, oh my gosh, that's a whatever.
Right.
Like Toxrill is a horror, and then the demons are really fun, and you're just like, you see this thing that's like, it looks like a deer, but it also just happens to be a deer demon for some reason. So like, just going into Scryfall and typing, demon, and you come up with some really fun stuff.
Yeah. Yes, I totally think there should be more of those. But yeah, my cuts were Shattering Spree, Tibble, Leyline of the Void. Mind's Aglow is randomly in here. Nobody ever lets me have fun with this card. They just don't pay any mana into it. I don't know if that's everybody else's experience. It might just be me, and they know that I'm trying some shenanigans with it.
Whenever possible, my default is to not let you have fun. So I feel like
and then maybe my controversial pick here, I cut the Warstorm Surge. You have this in the command zone. That is a lot of mana that I'd rather be playing a big old demon for than this effect.
Yeah, I will say that like the commander costs a lot, and if you're building your deck to take advantage of that mechanic, then if you cannot keep your commander on the board for a turn cycle to play another demon, having a second, more difficult option to use could be beneficial. So I think I might keep that over some of the other choices.
Yeah.
Like Tybalt or the 5 damage removal board clear.
Yeah. But yes, there's just some places to start looking for cuts for this deck.
All right, that was our goal. As the deck stands right now, is this something power level wise that we would be playing on the show if it were submitted?
Oh, absolutely.
Again, guys, we never, if we're talking about whether we would play it on the show, it's not that it's a bad deck or anything. It's just, you know, we don't play CEDH, or are there infinite combos or things like that that we typically stay away from for content. But you think that this is something that we would shuffle up?
Yeah, I think it's right in our power level. The things that it wants to do are fun and big and flashy, and aren't dominating like screen time either.
Okay, and then what is the who would be the pilot, you think?
I don't know. You seem to be our resident. We have one Warhammer deck to play. So maybe you.
I do Warhammer.
And you like to, sometimes you're just like plaything, hit people with. This, I think, does not take enough actions for me to be playing it. It's just like, make one clone, deal a bunch of damage. All right, go.
That is probably more my style, to be sure. And of the three of us, I am the only one who's played Warhammer. So, all right. Thank you so much, Twilight's Mirrorbox, for submitting a deck tech for today's stream. We really appreciate you. And don't forget, you have a channel where you guys can discuss all of the recommendations or show us updated lists. We love seeing them. All right, next up we have Wesley, a longtime patron, has submitted a new deck for us today.
Yes, and this is specifically Wesley's son Aiden. This is his deck. Sefris of the Hidden Ways, and he said that this is specifically the deck. This is his big powerful deck. If he wants to win, play at the high power tables, this is the one. Sefris of the Hidden Ways. When one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, so discard, mill, or from the battlefield graveyard, you venture into the dungeon, but this triggers only once each turn. And then when you complete a dungeon, you reanimate something. Cool.
I love dungeons. I love D&D and Venture.
You're going to like this deck.
I am an Esper fan, so that checks out.
Yeah, this is like part reanimator, part like draw discard value, part dungeon crawl. It's got a lot going on, and I think it balances it very well.
Quick side note, Rob wants to know what my Warhammer deck was. In 40k, I was a Tyranid player, and in Fantasy, I had High Elves and Lizardmen. I was obsessed with the squigs. They're so cute. Okay, continue.
One Planeswalker. It's Teferi, Master of Time, and this is here because you can use his ability on any player's turn, and the main ability is draw a card and discard a card. So that allows you to trigger Sefris on each player's turn, so that is venturing into the dungeon 4 times per rotation. That's kind of good. And that is what this deck is trying to do, is trying to maximize Sefris triggers, making sure you get one on every player's turn, and then reanimate something big and chunky. And here's our big and chunky. So we have lots of very strong, expensive targets to hit out of the graveyard. For the most part, any one of these is game over for one or more opponents.
Yeah, this almost looks like they're kind of, some of them are even, but it almost looks my
Yannette?
My Yannette deck. Like there's so much fatties in here.
Yeah. Oh, Yannette probably needs an update with a Valgavoth. But anyway, yeah, we have lots of big reanimate targets.
I am surprised that we don't have Sir Conrad.
Yeah, I think that would be on my list to put in here, because that is triggering off of all of these discards.
It helps you, it helps you find the things. And,
yeah, it does. Mills you.
And he also capitalizes on all the other things that are actively doing the milling thing too.
My thought on not seeing it was, Sir Conrad is a generally good card and thrives the most in decks that are able to aggressively mill themselves or opponents. And this is not doing that specifically. It is more accurate, I guess, in its discards, because it is doing those with looters. So you're only getting the one discard out of them. You just get to make sure that it is exactly what you're trying to get into the graveyard. We have a lot of these. Kitsa, Likeness Looter, Ledger Shredder counts as a looter. Obsessive Stitcher does pretty much the whole job you're looking for. Draw and discard and reanimate. And Rona.
Hammy wanted to say hi.
And then Hammy, the only other creatures in here besides reanimate targets and looters are things to give you the initiative or venture into the dungeon. Ideally, we're going into the Undercity because that is the more powerful of the dungeons. So you have like White Plume Adventurer. Let's see. I think there was, Seasoned Dungeoneer to be able to go into the Undercity. But even if not, you can venture using Nadar. And then I think best case scenario, you hit Radiant Solar and then just turbo through the dungeon as fast as possible on top of the ventures that you're getting out of Sefris. We have some sorceries. Buried Alive, Lively Dirge, and Unmarked Grave allow you to put exactly the creature that you want from your deck into the graveyard, which is very important because I do think, even if with all these big chunky targets, Radiant Solar is probably your best one, because being able to go through the Undersea as fast as possible allows you to then hit all of your other big targets. But it's nice having like, oh, I really need to shut down somebody's graveyard synergies and just know that Valgavoth can be your first target, or I really need to protect my stuff, so Sarah's Emissary is your first target. We have one more down here in the instance with Entomb, so you have a lot of ways to get exactly what you want into the graveyard to reanimate. Mm-hmm. You also don't necessarily have to wait for Sefris to do it. We have Reanimate and Persist and Victimize to be able to pull those out. And then I think the rest of this is just generally good Esper spells. We have Dam and Toxic Deluge for board wipes. We have some solid removal, Despark, Fracture, Swords, etc., 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 and a couple counter spells. Very light on artifacts, just Soul Ring, Signet, Felwar Stone, Greaves.
Is that a real Greaves?
That is a real Greaves.
What the heck is that from?
This is from the Tattoo Secret Lair.
There was a Tattoo Secret Lair?
Yep. Yeah, it's...
What?
And they all look like this. This all this border.
That had to have been semi-recent, because
yes.
I did Magic Mike's did an episode where we did the best secret lairs, and I looked through every single one, and I had never seen that.
Yeah, this is pretty recent. It's
awful.
It was definitely one of the most like divisive styles that's come out recently.
That looks, I don't like it.
We got to get they have like basics too, that have like a similar frame. It's not a tattoo though, but yeah, they all look like this, and some people are like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And then a lot of other people like me, I'm like, this is so ridiculous. I love it.
Well, so the picture of the tattoo doesn't actually bother me. It's the frame.
Yeah.
It almost looks more like a Yu-Gi-Oh frame. Like the color and like, I don't know.
Yeah, like a Yu-Gi-Oh but like 90s TV show frame. Yeah. Yeah, but nice and simple as far as the selection of artifacts. We're just ramping a little bit, and Greaves to protect our big stuff. We have some more Reanimate, Animate Dead, and Necromancy here in enchantments. Tortured Existence is fantastic in this deck because you can use this ability for 1 black to discard a creature card from your hand and return a creature from graveyard to your hand. This allows you to recycle some of your cheaper creatures like Baleful Strix. It ensures that you're able to get a Sefris trigger on every turn since it's an instant speed ability. and it's a very easy way to put your reanimate targets into your graveyard. This is for sure what I'd want to see turn 1. I think this makes the deck work really well. And then we have 2 good cards and Dungeon Delver to double our room abilities. And we also had Hama earlier that does that as well. A clean 36 lands. There we go. That's the deck.
Oh, look, you were wrong.
Was it?
They're flip cards.
I guess. Technically.
All right. So, were we given an assignment for this deck to make it stronger?
Yes, we're trying to improve this deck because this is Aiden's strongest one. This is just the I would like to win the game kind of deck. I think if we're going that direction, it is missing some of the higher power staples. There's no Esper Sentinel, Smothering Tithe, like Bowmasters. We're pretty light on your classic tutors. We have the ones that go to graveyard, but if you're trying to maximize power here, might as well throw Vampiric and Demonic in. I think there were. We probably don't need like Enlightened Tutor since there are only 10 targets total. I wouldn't mind like Mystical, stuff like that. There's no Dark Ritual. It does not help you to cast your commander at all, but I wouldn't mind being able to, I don't know, hard cast one of these things if I need to early. Or you have the old turn 1 Dark Ritual. You could do like Unmarked Grave and immediately reanimate the target kind of thing.
Ew.
Yeah. That's like that could be a turn 1 Valgavoth, turn 1 whatever else, turn 1 Elish Norn. Yikes. Some ones that are not necessarily like high power staples, but that you might want to consider here. Tomb of Horrors Adventurer is a card that I really like. It's 6 mana. When it enters, you gain the initiative, so that's another way for you to ensure that you're going through the Undercity. But if you've completed... hold on. Yes, okay. Where did you go? Tomb of Horrors Adventurer. Okay. When you cast your second spell each turn, you copy it. Great. You have a lot of big, powerful spells that you'd love to copy here. But if you've completed a dungeon, you get to copy the spell twice instead. This is like a good reanimate target, gives you the initiative, has a really powerful ability. You're likely to have completed a dungeon, so you get max value out of it. And at 6 mana, it's reasonable to just cast this card too. We have a couple cheap ways to reanimate already with like Persist and Reanimate and Victimize. I think Priest of Fell Rites would be pretty solid here. It is a creature that is... I think it's Priest of Fell Rites. It's only 2 mana investment, and then you tap, pay 3 life, sack it, return a creature graveyard to battlefield. So you can just plop this out on the battlefield early, and then as soon as you got a good reanimate target, then you fire it off. And it has Unearth, so you get a second use out of it. Or if you just want to pitch it to a looter early on to try and draw into something that you need, you get some more value out of it later. And then this is a very solid build. I would look at optimizing the mana base a little bit more. I feel like there's a good balance of pips and things like that, but something MDFCs. I also think that some of the Kamigawa lands would be good here.
Why do we have snows?
That I could not figure out. I think it's maybe just for style.
Okay. Because the only reason I was asking is because I would replace like swamps with like Takenuma, and like if we're going for power, like go for broke. Those things are pretty nice. Iganjo maybe a little less important, but The blue one has certainly saved my life on the show a couple of times. Otawara.
Yeah.
Like, you have presented something scary, and I was able to get you and save Malltown that time.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, we have the spots to spare. We don't have a lot of things here that care about basic lands, so you could certainly cut each one of these for one of the Kamigawa lands in each one. Something MDFCs, like I said. What am I?
There's 2 right there.
I don't know. I'm not so hot on this high market here because you have a 3 mana pip commander, and as far as I could tell, the only reason that this is in the deck is like in an emergency if you need another Sefris trigger, sacrificing one of your creatures does that as well. But I don't know that that is worth the colorless land.
It's not just the commander either, because they're like a lot of the other stuff is pretty pip intensive. Like all of our like removal spells are like 2 and double black, 2 blue. Yeah, everything is void rend.
Yeah, I would always want to have that, and it's got to be a real good reason to have a colorless one. Even the Gaia Reach Sanitarium, I would be considering replacing this. Yes, it does a thing that you really that you want to happen, but you've got a lot of looters, and it also helps your opponents. This I would usually run in a deck that or in colors that struggle to be able to draw and discard, and that is why you're running something like this. But I don't think that this deck will struggle to do that at all. And we have some good reanimate targets here. Let me sort these. We have some good reanimate targets here, but I think we could even improve this a little bit. The Ulamog, yeah, it's big and flashy. But if you're reanimating it, you don't get the cast trigger, so you're not exiling anything. So you're just left with a 10/10 indestructible that when it attacks, you exile 20 cards.
That seems still pretty good.
Seems pretty good. However, it is super chumpable, and 20 cards is enough to make somebody very mad at you, but not enough to kill them. You probably have to hit them at least 3 times, if not more than that, in an average game to be able to take somebody out. I would replace this with something that is a little that has more impact. There's a certain slug in these colors that would be really strong here.
Tux roll, slimy boy.
I think that like either of the Jin-Gitaxiases are very mean, but they would be great here.
I like the slimy boy.
And this is if this is the version that you have, I think you run it just to style on people, because that is a really cool looking card. But I don't think you need this in this deck. It's a 6/6 flyer. It's great. You can get some damage in. You can't lose the game. Your opponents can't win the game, but it doesn't protect itself in any way.
Yeah, that's one of those cards. If you open it, you have to run it, right?
Right.
Like I opened the not fractured doubling season, the kitty doubling season from that set, and I put it in the first deck I could find.
Yeah. I think this card, if you're just looking at optimizing the deck, this is a replaceable reanimate target. And I think third in the list of that would be this Overseer of the Damned. It's solid. You get 1 removal out of it. It's a 5/5 flyer, which is okay. And then over time, it's going to give you some zombies. But I want my reanimate target to be as scary and impactful as possible. And this may just be enters, destroys a creature, it gets popped, done.
So we have a good amount of lands. We don't have that many of these, but like with so many targets, if we can't activate for whatever reason, if they're keeping this off the board, if we're not able to use this reanimation,
Mm-hmm.
is there a good reason to have like the Liliana's bring everything back card? That feels like a good fallback for this deck.
Rise of the Dark Realms. It's 9 mana. I would be... I think that would be a dead card in most games. Because
there's not quite enough rocks.
Yeah.
But like you have so many big things, and if the game plan starts to run a little thin, it feels like it could be a good late game ender.
That's true. I think I would just hope that my big reanimate targets at that point would do enough. Because if you're at that point, you can just hard cast some of this stuff. Or hopefully Sefris has not died that many times, but I would be
she doesn't need to die that many times. She needs to die right before you complete dungeons. Like if the timing's weird, or if you use 2 or 3 reanimate spells and they just get, pathed or whatever, then you might run a little light. I was looking for some sort of extra oomph, but maybe there's just enough card draw for that to be the oomph. Because you do have Ristic Study. What else do we have in card draw wise?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the big advantages of a deck like this, is the big oomph is built into the deck. You just have a big chunk of it dedicated to big scary things that, like, at some point you will be able to cast. And a lot of these on their own get a lot of work done. So I wouldn't be too concerned about needing a big game ender, since your big chunk of your deck is big game enders.
Okay.
Yeah, overall, I think this is I think this is a very powerful, well-built deck. The one thing I was unsure of, there are not a lot of ways to get into the Undercity here. There are not a lot of good cards that do, like, this is running pretty much every good card that I can think of that does it. But that is for sure the best of the dungeons, and I think the only ways we can get in there right now are White Plume Adventurer, Seasoned Dungeoneer, and maybe one other one. But you not quite non-bow, but it's even tough too, because if you go into another dungeon first, taking the initiative does not then put you into the Undercity. You have to complete that dungeon first, and then you can go into the Undercity. So it might be worth looking for some ways to sneak some other initiative cards in, but I don't know. That's tricky.
Like you were saying, there's not a lot of good ones for high-powered decks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably a balancing thing, because if it's the best dungeon and they give you really powerful cards that also get you into that dungeon, it's probably where it should be. There's a reanimate spell that gives you the initiative.
Yes, it is 5 mana.
That seems good then.
That is, I think pretty playable here. I wonder if that card, does this work? Can I Moxfield search in this? Yes, I can. Cool. From the Catacombs. And it escapes. And it escapes. I think it's playable. 5 is a lot of mana to spend on this, but it does all the things that you want. So if it resolves, you're pretty happy. But also, we can take a look. Are there any other initiative cards that are worth it in this deck? I don't think you can get it. I think this is the only card that allows you to get it for less than 4, and the other 4s are bad. Yeah, I I think this is maybe your choice if you're trying to put more of that in the deck. Maybe Ravenloft Adventurer, since it shuts down some things that other decks want to do, but yeah, it's tough.
That's a neat feature from Moxfield.
Mm-hmm.
All right, as it stands, how power level wise, is this too high a power level for the show?
This is tough. I think with a couple there's only a couple cards in this deck that would be over our typical power level, would be cards that I wouldn't want to run. But this style of deck can be pretty dominant on clock time if you're doing like Sefris and Radiant Solar stuff. I think we had an episode like that. Where a Radiant Solar took a lot of game actions, and then put that player into a position to win, but did not win right there, and that's hard for players in the seats, and it's hard to edit through. It's very hard to edit through.
Yeah, the dungeon deck was definitely many game actions on everyone's turn too. It wasn't just their turn, which did make it difficult to get through a round.
Right. And this wants to do both of those things. It wants to do lots of dungeon triggers, and it wants to do them on each player's turn.
Yeah. So probably a tougher fit for the show, but I do think it's a really cool idea.
I think it's really cool. I think it's very well built, and I think it very powerful, and it sounds like it wins games. So
nice. Well, Wesley and Aiden, thank you guys so much for being a patron and submitting this list for us to check out today. If you guys in the audience would like to check it out, there's links, of course, down below for you, so you guys can see all of the decks featured on today's episode. Next up, we have a list from Kouga, and this is a commander that we did see on the show in our All Experience episode.
Yes. Minthara, Merciless Soul, has Ward X, where X is the number of experience counters that you have. At your end step, if a permanent left the battlefield, you get an experience counter, and your creatures get +1 for each experience counter that you have.
Someone in chat is saying that they skipped the gym to be here today, just like Veggie told them.
Yeah, I also skipped the gym to be here today.
And every other day.
I was definitely planning on going, but I felt like I should be here.
How long has it been since you've been to the gym?
Hey, I almost went to the gym when I was on vacation.
But didn't.
No.
When was the last time you worked out? In fairness, I'm not giving him shit, because my answer is just as long or longer.
I don't know.
It's been a long time, right?
It was probably recently.
All right. So, who was this? Oh, Kouga's list. Okay. Tell us about the commander.
Yeah.
I think I played this.
Yeah, the Orsov deck that wants to sacrifice this stuff?
I think so.
I don't know. Well, I mean, that's the thing to know about this deck. You want to be able to have something go to your graveyard every one of your end steps, so you're guaranteed to get those experience counters. And since it is only during your end step, and it is a card that gets stronger every time you get another experience counter, this deck is built to grind.
My favorite.
You want the game to go long, because the longer that it goes, the more powerful that you get.
A lot of my favorite cards here.
There are a couple different ways to approach this one, but here we have a lot of different ways to sacrifice. Whether they're creatures to sacrifice themselves, like Scornblade Berserker, or sack outlets like Bartolome and Dreg Recycler, and then we have things that are giving us value from that, whether it's draining your opponents with Elisol Core or Blood Artist, or there are, I think, some other things that are getting you value. I forget what they are, though.
All of them. Everything is giving you value.
Everything. And then we have some other stuff that kind of synergizes with it. We have a lot of things that are like making your opponents lose life. So Blood a Letter of Aklazats, doubling all of that, and also like just a good 4/4 flyer by itself. There are a lot of things that are happening when things die, so Teysa doubling those triggers is pretty good. I like that you get to play Veto here. This is a pretty specific trigger. It's when you sacrifice another permanent, and you want to be able to do it 3 times in a turn, but this seems like the deck that can do it pretty consistently. And then on the top end, we do have the original Shieldred. We have stuff like Mickey. We're running everybody's most hated card, Turgid.
I like Turgid.
Yes, and that is, if anything, that should explain why people don't like it.
But I don't do mean stuff.
I love Turgid. Oh, Toxrill, what a fun card. I like that one too.
I only like it in horror decks.
Mm-hmm.
And slug decks, bug decks.
Right. You like it when it's on the board and other people are against you.
That is not true. I'm trying to figure out what that buzzing is, but I cannot for life. It's not my phone. Do you have your phone in here?
I do, but it's in my pocket and it is not that.
Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, the Mothra here, or Luminous Brood Moth, is nice to get double value out of all of your sacrificed creatures. But yeah. Okay, so it's a pretty classic sacrifice Orzhov package here. Instants and sorceries. You have a lot of things that you'd expect to see, tutors, reanimate, but then you get some more specific stuff like Drown in Ichor, which proliferates.
Yeah, I love proliferate. Sorry. I like this deck. I call dibs.
Well, the proliferate here, we actually have next to no other counters in this whole deck, but you can just proliferate your own experience. So that is just a free experience for you.
Yeah, and it's an okay removal spell on its own.
Yeah, like it's a good rate. Except black, I guess, can just kill stuff at that cost. But you don't get many other proliferate cards like that. Sunset Revelry is making you some tokens. I think that is the part of it that you want the most. Then we have some more ways to sacrifice in the instance with Corrupting Conviction and Deadly Dispute and Nasty End. And removal.
Is Disenchant good enough anymore? I know there's some... It costs 1 more. But there are plenty now that do like Artifact, Enchantment, and Creature with Power 4 or greater for 3 mana at instant speed. I feel like to add big problem removal for 1 mana is something I'm willing to do.
Yeah. I think Disenchant is fine. Because it is two pretty relevant options for 2 mana instant speed. That's fine. But we are kind of light on removal here. So having more flexibility is even more important. So yes, upgrading that to like Generous Gift or Requisition Rate is not great here, but like something like that.
Well, there's also the 4 power one where you just kill dragons. It just has a built-in... It's Disenchant with Kill Dragon. They have them. It's a draft common in basically every set at this point, right? There's one in Foundations for sure.
Kill Dragon?
Kill a creature with power 4 or greater.
Oh, okay. I was like...
Which is like kill all of the dragons.
Got you. It's like, yeah, the 2 modes are kill an artifact or enchantment and...
Or it's kill artifact, enchantment, or creature with power 4 or greater. There's one in Foundations, isn't there?
I want to say that it only has one of those. It's only kill an enchantment or a creature with 4. But if you all know what this is, it's like not Valorous Stance, because they'll give one of your things indestructible or kill a 4. Yeah, because that would be strictly better Disenchant, and I don't think that exists.
It costs 1 more.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying I'm willing to pay one more for the
Yeah.
flexibility of killing a large-ish bomb.
Yes, and that I agree with. I think, yes, I think paying one more for any of the things that hits more targets here is good, especially since we have less removal. Make your move. The chess card.
Maybe. Keep going.
But,
I'm.
But yes, I agree with you on that. Artifacts, yeah, we knew we were going to see Phyrexian Altar, Ashnod's Altar here as two of the best sack outlets to ever be printed. And we have a very interesting Nexus of Becoming. I think this is a really cool card, but I don't know what it does for you in this deck. So at your combat, you draw a card, and then you can exile an artifact or creature from your hand and make a 3/3 copy of it. So it doesn't have to be, it's like if it's an artifact, it also becomes a creature. I'm not sure. I mean, like, we have a handful of bigger creatures here that are nice, but it might just be a case of cool card that you'd like to play, and I support that.
For which card?
This one here, Nexus of Becoming. I don't know what it does for the deck that is important. But if you all can think of something, let me know. I mean, the card is fine and powerful and cool. I just don't know that it synergizes with the deck.
Make your move. That's right.
But yes. Yes, my brain got very scrambled on... I could not, for some reason, process that you had said it was like costs an extra one. The dragon thing like super threw me off.
Well, originally I said 4 or greater.
Yeah, I'm saying it cooked my brain. Like it was all on me. I'm like, why am I not understanding this? This is a very simple thing. Yes, I don't know what this is doing. It's
life insurance. Oh God.
Yeah.
No. Has that aired?
Yes. No.
No. Is that next episode? Okay, yeah, it's next episode. Life insurance is in the next episode on Monday.
It's a good card. Note, everyone, it says this is not an option.
Well,
so, speaking of draft commons,
I love this card. This card's great.
This card was not even good in its limited environment.
But it was fun.
No.
When you kill someone that way, it's great. And I love enchantments.
So here's the thing: if that is how you feel about the card, regardless of what the card is, run the card. If you have any other reaction to this, cut this card. This is not a good card.
But it's fun.
This is not a good card. Also, I think there's a strictly better version. The one from Ravnica, whatever it was either in Guilds or Ravnica Allegiance.
There's also a cool one in Return to Ixalan or whatever, where it comes into play and makes them sacrifice, and then you can exile a creature from your graveyard to flip it later.
Oh yeah,
and then it turns into this.
Yeah, because it's an artifact and it's everybody sacks a thing. Yeah, and then you can craft it into that. Yeah, like that would also be better than this.
Also, draft cards.
But see, that's like that was a good draft card. Like this was not even good in this draft format.
There was a deck that was okay with running this. Leave me alone. That's fun. Magic.
I mean, granted, I was drafting like 5-color snow every time in this, so I can't say too much, but we have some other interesting choices. The Far Traveler here allows us to blink tapped creatures at our end step. But I am also not sure that we have good targets for that. Because it has to be something that's tapped.
Sun Titan. Oh, he's Vigilance.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, what would I want to blink every turn?
Right.
And I was like, Sun Titan has a good ETB.
Yeah.
Gray Merchant.
Great. Yeah, but it has to be tapped. So that means we had to swing with it?
He's a 2/4. Probably someone can't profitably kill it.
At the point that we've played Gray Merchant? I don't know. Like, it's not that there aren't targets. I just don't know that there's consistent enough targets that we would want, that we would be able to get tapped.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we have 33 lands. Okay, so that is the deck. We did not have any specifics for this one. So here are my thoughts. Number one, there are 2 cards that care about experience in Orzhov colors. You also have Daxos. Daxos the Returned. And just I think it's a card that is fine enough, and you don't get to run this. Like, when else do you get double, like, experience matters cards? So, like, yeah, we don't have a ton of enchantments, but Mannara is our main way that we're building up our experience, and that means that Daxos' second ability is just going to make chunky spirits over and over and over again.
Yeah, you might not gain a ton of experience from it, but your commander is doing the work, and this just makes you spirits.
Right. 3 mana for 3 mana repeatable big spirits.
And it gives you a reason to play Dogged Pursuit.
Sure.
Is that what it's called? I forget. It's great.
Yeah.
You love it.
I thought this deck was suspiciously missing tokens, because we want a permanent to go into our graveyard every one of our turns. We have a lot of ways to do that, but I don't know that we have that we are consistently going to have things we want to sacrifice. We have a lot of payoffs. We have a lot of ways to sacrifice them, but I didn't see a lot of things that I actually would want to get rid of.
Maybe it's like cards like Mothra. Is there other recursion-y things that make us care a little less about the quality of the things we're sacking? Or Sun Titan?
I mean, they are, but they're all, that's like a second layer of things. Like, okay, I have to set this up, and I can't sacrifice stuff until I have the Brood Moth, or until I have Sun Titan out.
Treasures would work too, right? You said permanent?
Yeah, treasures would work.
So something simple.
Right.
Like the enchantment for the card that you said, Smothering Tithe.
Yeah, I mean, Smothering Tithe is good, and it has synergy as well here. Or like black market connections, or anything that is making some very expendable things, because I don't know that we have enough things that are expendable that we're always going to have something to get rid of.
Is this the one that has Afterlife?
Yeah, so that's one.
A couple like this could be cool.
Mm-hmm. We have this one proliferate card here, but this, I think, is one of the weaker proliferate cards available to you. There aren't a lot in white and black. Well, no, there are a lot in white and black. But there's Metastatic Evangel from MH3, which is just 2 mana, and when a non-token creature enters under your control, proliferate. That seems real good here.
I made a Selesnya token deck or counter deck with that. It was really nasty.
Yeah. Or Grateful Apparition, the 2 mana flyer that just when it hits somebody you proliferate. Both of those seem very good, and I think better than Drown and Ichor. This could just be replaced with a better removal spell. The things I don't know why I wrote these separately on separate lines. We were saying tokens and things that are more expendable. There are a lot of like good ones that also synergize with Minthara's ability to boost creatures' power. Nested Shambler is just a 1-drop that when it dies, it makes 1/1s equal to its power. Jacked Rabbit, which is new, I think is ideal for this deck. Yeah, this is it's a 2-drop. And it get what was the, there we go. Yeah, it gets more counters if you pay more mana for it, but when it attacks, it makes 1/1s equal to its power. And your commander is buffing power. So yeah, that one and Nested Shambler. There's like Denethor from the Lord of the Rings set. The Orzhov, like, oh, did something die? Make a 1/1. And then you can pay 2 and sacrifice to like draw a card. Alenda makes 1/1s when it dies equal to its power. Adeline, Jadar gives you an expendable 2/2 that just sacrifices itself if you swing with it. I think a lot of those would help to round this deck out. Those are the thoughts that I had.
All right, as it stands power-wise, is this something that we would play on the show?
Yeah, I think this is pretty close to the deck that we did run on the show. Generally, I'm very careful with decks that include these cards, because free sacrifice outlets are just really strong and hard to interact with, and usually mean that you're taking a whole lot of game actions. But I think this is using them pretty fairly. So I don't think I would even change that aspect of the deck if it was going on the show.
As for who would play it, dibs.
Yeah.
Dibs, I want it. I'll play it. This sounds like something I want to do. I just want to play these draft cards. And I own all of them because they're great.
Mm-hmm.
This is so cool. If you put in more tokens, you can also use the Plumb the Forbidden.
Yeah.
To draw extra. Although this does make you a treasure.
Yeah.
So that activates the thing.
Oh, okay. So I think the last thing I had for this deck, and just in general, I could have sworn I wrote this out. So because Mannara boosts all of your creatures, it boosts their power based on the number of experience counters you have. It gets much better if you go wide with it.
I think Inklings would be really good.
Yeah, because flying, you're getting that damage in.
So you get extra counters or tokens to make the experience. Also, you have huge evasive creatures that it can utilize her ability way more than most of these other idiots.
Yeah, I just that is the line of thinking that I think makes this deck better. Going wide, whether they're evasive or not.
Ink Shield
is going, because you're also fine to just run your stuff into people. You're like, sure, I'll trade my 5/1 token that I made with whatever you want, because I want them to die. And you get so much value out of, oh, I made a 1/1, but it gets this huge boost, so now I'll trade it with something because you don't want to take 5 damage to the face. Yeah, so I think building Mannara, in general, think wide first.
All right. Thank you so much, Kouga, for submitting the list for us to check out. Really do appreciate it. And appreciate you being a part of the show as a patron. Next up, we have list number 4, submitted by Kai.
All right. This is my favorite submission of today.
I am not a Doctor Who fan. I don't know why. Like, I like Doctor Who's fine. I just, I don't get all hot and bothered by the Doctor Who cards. I
am also like,
I'm not a huge Fallout fan either, but I like them more. I like what the cards are doing more. That's
where it is for me. I have seen a chunk of Doctor Who. I enjoyed it, but I don't think I've seen any episode more than once. And I'm not super up on the lore or anything. I'm not like a Doctor Who super fan, but all of these cards were exactly the kind of Magic that I like to play.
Which is Doctor Who. That's how I feel about other IPs as well.
But that is not even the reason why this is my favorite submission for today.
All right, tell us about it.
The War Doctor, whenever one or more permanents whenever one or more other permanents phase out, and whenever one or more other cards are put into exile from anywhere, put a time counter on the War Doctor. And then when he attacks, he deals damage equal to the number of those counters on it to any target. It also exiles creatures if you blow them up. And then because he is a Time Lord Doctor specifically, it means you can add a Doctor's Companion. And this companion, Ryan Sinclair, when he attacks, you exile cards on top of your library until you hit a non-land. Then you can cast it for free as long as its cost is less than or equal to his power. So it's like
so you're guaranteeing to hit Lightning Greaves.
Right, because we only have a single spell in the deck.
Yes.
It's 97 lands, Lightning Greaves, and these guys in the command zone.
So you're automatically when he attacks, you hit Lightning Greaves. Then what?
Mm-hmm.
Tell how does this work? What are we doing?
So this is a weird interaction, and it's funny because the title of the deck is this good? It is good because if you did not know this, cards like the War Doctor and what's her face, Lelia, that say whenever one or more cards are put into exile, do a thing. If you cascade, or if you use Ryan Sinclair's ability that says exile cards from your top of your library until something, those all count as single instances per card. The same as if something says like draw 5 cards. That counts as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triggers for something that says when you draw a card. Because of weird Magic rules and phrasing, you will get a time counter for every single card that you exile.
That's why the text on those cards says whenever you draw one or more, or whenever you draw a card that is not your first. Like they word them in a way to help prevent breaking that.
Yes. And in this case, you can break it. So hopefully our Lightning Greaves is somewhere deep in the deck. So the War Doctor ends up with like 50 counters. He then swings and deals 50 to any target. That's the deck.
But you need a lot of time to make that work, right?
You do need some time.
You need 4 turns because there's no ramp.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Well, yes, go on.
And then you have to have him out before, so the Lightning Greaves doesn't actually give him haste, because you attack with him, I assume, at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Those are the biggest struggles for this deck. We have a lot of lands that help with that. So we do have kind of ramp. We have lands like Ancient Tomb and Crystal Vein that are going to be producing more than 1 mana and putting us a little bit ahead.
Wouldn't it be better? So like this has to be already attacking or able to attack to do the thing. Why the Lightning Greaves? Wouldn't it be better with like a Path of Exile so you could attack, hit it off the top and kill the blocker?
Yeah, I guess. So I'm with you. I think Lightning Greaves is not the best pick here. As far as I could tell, it means that you can use Ryan Sinclair by himself to get the Lightning Greaves and then be ready on your next turn to play the War Doctor. But that still puts you at like turn 5. It just gives you it means your opponents have to have instant speed removal or you get to do the thing. But I could not find a way that this works well, because if you swing with them both at the same time, you don't need the Lightning Greaves because they're both swinging. Or if you play the War Doctor, like play Ryan on 3, War Doctor on 4, even if you swing with Ryan, it's too late to then add the Greaves and swing with War Doctor.
Yeah, that was what I was getting at, which is why I think like maybe a Path of Exile that kills a blocker could be more relevant. But also the idea is that he cycles, the lands go back onto the bottom, they kill War Doctor when you're 2v1, you've killed someone with him, you can replay him, then suit him up with the Greaves, And then Ryan Sinclair goes through your whole deck, and he's a lethal attacker again.
Yeah.
So you can have a lethal attacker every turn, even though they kill him. So I guess that's fine, but...
Mm-hmm. I tried to think of like what some other options would be here. Like, because the removal is very much the Nerd Girl answer. It's like, oh, just, you know, do regular good card that...
Because he doesn't like have menace or trample or anything like that. So you can hit them for 50 commander damage, but then they block it with their Saproling token, and then you're like, all right, well, I'll try again next turn, because you have no other ways to win.
Well, he can go face.
Oh, deals combat damage. Okay, he has a second part of his text. I see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because he doesn't even get bigger. They are time counters, so he stays a 3/5. But it's just when he attacks, you deal equal to the number of counters.
He can go face. What do you mean?
Okay, so you do the thing. He has 50 counters on him. You swing. You say, "Great, I'm going to deal 50 damage to you. You just die."
Oh, I thought it was combat damage, not that you just get to do it.
Yeah, it's an attack trigger.
It's an attack trigger, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't work as commander damage, so you do need to hit...
You need to hit big.
All of it. You can't mill 22 cards to hit the Lightning Greaves and still kill them.
Right.
Which is sad.
Yeah. I don't... it's tricky because you need something that Ryan is able to cast. So it has to cost 2 or less. There are 2 spells in red that are 2 mana that give you an extra turn. You just lose at the end of that turn. But that's not enough time to kill 3 players. That would kill 2. The one that you hit initially, and then the one after that. Which is funny. You do end the game because you kill 2 players and then you yourself lose. But that's not terribly helpful. I don't know. I don't know what the best choice here would be. And maybe that's why the Greaves is here. It's like, okay, yes, you cannot do like an optimal sort of attack and Greaves and go, but it ensures
that you can recast the Doctor every turn and attack and run the gambit again.
Right. But the other thing is, if they're killing the War Doctor, he then comes back with no counters. You also need to be able to swing with Ryan Sinclair again. So like it's still pretty dangerous.
Yeah, because you can't. They block Ryan, and then someone kills the Doctor on their turn, right? And then you can't grieve them both up.
Right.
Is there lands that give haste?
There are. So let's go over some more of these. Some more of the lands that were selected here while we think about what might be a better choice. There are some lands that give haste. There's Hall of the Bandit Lord, which if you use its mana to cast a creature, the creature gets haste. There is Flamekin Village, which sets you back a turn because you have to pay, sets you back really 2 turns because you have to pay a red and tap it to give something haste, but that still works. And then there's new freaking amazing Arena of Glory. This card is really so good.
Yeah.
It does not set you back any turns. It just will exert itself when you use its ability, so you won't be able to use the Arena of Glory the next turn, but keeps you on pace. So those are I think the only 3 lands that grant haste, but that's something. I could not find any other lands that are able to do that, and those are the only 3 I knew of. That's it. There are 2 lands that were missing here that I felt you could use, because you do want to do this as fast as possible. You have Ancient Tomb and Crystal Vein that are making 2 mana. You could also run Remote Farm and Sandstone Needle. These were only printed in Mercadian Masks. They come into play tapped, and they have 2 counters on them, and then you can tap and remove a counter to make 2 colored mana. But once they're out of counters, they get sacrificed. I think at that point, you don't care. So like this is a great turn 1 or turn 2, which allows you to then be able to like if you play this on turn 1, you can go Ryan on turn 2, War Doctor on turn 3. You still have to figure out what you're doing about this, but it lets you do it faster.
I like that.
Yeah. The other one,
you're certainly going to draw more lands.
Right. Exactly. Also, like maybe this helps you to live longer. Witch's Clinic is a way to give lifelink.
Because he deals the damage.
Yeah, he deals the damage. Yeah.
Oh, this is also giving haste. I don't know if you saw that one.
Oh, yes.
It's expensive.
Nice.
But it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everything else here is just like kind of trying to cover your bases, homeward path if they steal your stuff. Horizon of Progress can ramp you. You're certainly going to have more lands in hand. And then like just some utility. Sokanzan makes bodies. Shinka could give first strike if that helps you to protect the War Doctor a little bit.
There's a treasure land. You can pay a bunch of mana to make extra treasures.
Treasure Vault?
I think that's too slow. But if you're recasting the commander, because that's the only thing you have to do for the 18th time, it might be worth it.
Yeah, or yeah, like Command Beacon, we have that as well for a one time get your commander back for free. There's even Branch of Vitu-Ghazi, a land that can be a body if you need it to.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of fun utility here. Plaza of Heroes to protect the War Doctor one time.
Yeah, I would put a lot more creature lands in, right? Like Den of the Bugbear and stuff like that.
Yeah, just to give you anything else that you can do.
Because that actually makes like 1/1s too, which can be good blockers on the way back.
Maybe some land destruction as well, like running Demolition Field, because like a Glacial Chasm just shuts this deck off. You just can't win through that. Or like I want to say that there's some more lands that might give you trouble, but
so Jazzy J, so if you guys are just coming in, the whole point of the deck is that you don't hit anything other than something that is 2 CMC or less, because you want Ryan Sinclair to not get stuck on anything else. So you literally just want lands and 1 spell. And that 1 spell has to be 2 CMC or less. So Lightning Greaves is what the creator of the deck decided. I was thinking like Path of Exile, so that way when you do attack on the stack, you do the thing, and then you can path the blocker. But that makes no sense anymore because I thought he got bigger. I thought he had to hit. So my Path to Exile plan is completely irrelevant. I don't care about 3 damage anymore. So
yeah. Okay, hold on. I'm cooking something up. So you play Ryan on 3, you play the War Doctor on 4, you're ready to swing on 5. Because you need both of them you need both of them swinging to do the thing. I'm trying to think if there is a 2 mana copy your triggered ability. And there is. Okay. Because what you do...
Yeah, because you have open mana on 5 because you can't attack any sooner with the War Doctor.
Right. So you run Return the Favor. Let me know if there is if you all can think of one that's better than this. But okay, so it is 2 mana, so you can cast this, and you have not cast anything else. So you have 4 or 5 open mana on this turn. You spree it to copy the triggered ability of the War Doctor to deal damage. So you eliminate 2 players in 1 swing. Then you just have to live through 1 other player.
Why would a Strionic Resonator work?
That would also work, yeah, because you have the mana open
on turn 5, so you could just activate that, and you can.
Or
that's reusable.
Is Strionic? I forget. Is Strionic triggered or activated?
It works on Yannette.
Oops, back.
Works on your net and
yeah, triggered ability. Yeah, so yeah, because you have that mana available, so why not?
So yeah, and it comes into, you can cast it right away, right?
Right.
So it comes into play, and with you resolve Ryan Sinclair first,
right,
and then you put the Strionic Resonator into play, and then copy the War Doctor's ability, so you automatically on turn 5 get 2 triggers.
Right.
And you can go to different targets. You might be able to kill 2 people.
Yes.
Because you can choose a new target with the Strionic Resonator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think this is better than the Return Favor. 1 point for Nerd Girl.
I think this is probably the best that you can get out of this deck. Like unless there is like a 2 mana. Yeah, because like I think what you want is to end the game once you've done your thing, but I cannot think of a way to accomplish that.
I mean, honestly, if you do manage to 2-shot someone here on turn 5, like 2-shot 2 people,
yeah,
the chances of the last person having the interaction to do the thing,
right? Yeah, you kill the players that are most likely to deal with it, and just like cross your fingers on player number 3.
Yeah, player number 3 who's playing mono green Galta or whatever, and you're just like, ha ha, can you stop me from untapping? Because then there's no other, like, he's a million, right? There's no other cards in your library.
Yeah.
So he's, an 80 power, 90 power, whatever.
Yeah, or, well, 80 damage. It's still a 3/5. Yeah. I think that's about as good as you can go.
All right. I think that's really cool. I think the Strionic Resonator is a much better addition than the Lightning Greaves that are awkward. Lightning Greaves are cool if they stop you and you need to run it back a couple of times so you can keep doing it every turn instead of every other turn when you recast the Doctor. But I think Resonator potentially killing 2 people on turn 5 is too cool.
Yeah, I also think it is better. I think it is just, you have a better chance to win if you can do that versus the Lightning Greaves thing. Yeah.
All right. Is this something we would run on the show, Veggie?
So, I thought there are so many meme decks, and I like the idea.
April Fool's deck. Should we do an April Fool's episode?
Here, I put some thought into this because like the concept of putting a pod full of decks like this is fun and funny. The question is, does it actually make for good content? Like, does that make for an entertaining game, or is it just simply us thinking about it that is actually the good part of it? And I don't know the answer to that question. So like, maybe it's an experiment that we have to follow through with. But I think the other thing is, if you have a full pod of decks like this, it is very easy to figure out who wins ahead of time, because we know the fastest that this deck is able to go and what it is able to do. And so that means the other 3 people are like, oh, well, my deck is just slower than that, so I can't win this, or my deck is faster than that. Also, this player would know those things, so I'm like, you would know your optimal targets to shoot in the face.
I feel like there's also other meme decks, though, that aren't this specific and have more spells, so they can stop things or set things off. It's not like this is a guaranteed win on turn 6.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, a meme deck could be like, Relentless Rats, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to, like, have...
That's not a meme deck, it's a real deck.
Well, I just meant, like, something weird that, like, you can have removal in.
I think this is past a Relentless Rats kind of meme. This is like this is a really ridiculous concept that we'd have to find stuff like it's on equal footing of. So I think we know up to this point we've never put a deck like this on the show.
But maybe for April Fools.
Maybe.
That'd be a fun concept. We did do, you guys will see next month, we filmed a International Optimism Day, which we took that to mean decks that have very optimistic win conditions. So this has a similar vibe. This is more memey, I think. We were talking about, like, it's not in it, but like Approach of the Second Sun, like things like that would be more optimistic. And that's going to be a really fun episode, but that's what this reminded me of. Who would run this deck if we were to hypothetically put it on the show?
I mean, I think the easy answer would be like, oh, I would run that because that's, you know, it's the ridiculous one. But if we had a full pod of 4 of these kind of decks, I don't know.
This one doesn't do enough actions.
I don't think any of them do. So I'm trying to think what else. You could put like the infamous Cruel Claw into that one, which would be also 98 lands and 1 spell. I wonder if that you could do, if you could do a full pod of decks that only have a single spell in them.
Is there enough decks that do that?
I mean, we've already got 2 now. That's half the pod. You can do this. You can do Cruel Claw. You can do.
Is there the opposite? Decks with like 1 land in it?
Oh yeah, oops all spells.
Yeah. So you could do.
Yeah, like this versus a Goblin Charbelcher deck.
This is what we normally do. We have these conversations around the dinner table about, you know, that's how some of our best show topics come up, so.
I know there's like one other in my head that I thought about already, but I don't remember what it is.
Deep in the tank. All right, Kai, thank you so much for submitting a deck for us to take a look at today. Thank you so much for your support as a patron. We really do appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing your next deck list next month. Also, I want to know what you think of Ceramic Resonator. I'm proud of it. Hehehe. I don't suggest many good things, but I found one.
I think that is the best thing that deck could possibly do. I do.
Awesome. Oh, wait, we have to see who it is. I messed up. Next one is going to be submitted from Red, one of our moderators and longtime patrons. Okay, all you.
Okay.
That's a cool anime card.
That's because this is what is this from? Is this Miku?
The artist?
No, the Secret Lair. Is that who this is? I don't know who that is, but I know that is a something that people like. Do you all know? Is that what this is from?
Cute girl with pink hair? Yeah, I think that is a thing people like.
I don't know.
All right, tell us about.
That's what I think that is.
Tell us about the commander that Red has submitted.
Yeah, it's from the Miku Secret Lair. Okay, so this Rev Tithe Extractor was a card that people were pretty hyped on when Foundation's Jumpstart got spoiled. But this is the first time I've seen I've seen an actual deck list for it.
She's hot.
And she's good. 4 mana for 3/3. Whenever you attack, target creature gains Death Touch until end of turn. And then whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure and look at the top card of that player's library, exile it face down, and you can cast it as long as it's exiled. So, if you hit all 3 of your opponents, that means every turn you're making 3 treasures and drawing 3 cards, but they're from your opponent's decks. That's a lot. But it does mean that you have to go into mono black, and it does not color fix for casting spells. You're hoping that the treasures are enough to be able to allow you to cast them.
Yeah.
So those are your downsides. But they're still, like, even if they remove Rev, you can still cast those spells.
Well, you automatically get green for free. Someone's going to be running the Yavimaya whatever.
Well, you know what's funny? You can run Yavimaya in this deck.
Well, there you go. You get green.
Yeah. Which, for those of you out there that are confused, it is legal to run Yavimaya in
It has no pips on it.
It has no pips on it. Same for Urborg.
That's why you can run fetches, too, that are not correct.
Mm-hmm. It's almost never relevant, but if you have, like, a commander with, like Swamp Walk or Forest Walk, that could be good, or other things in your deck that care about that. Or if you just have a deck that has cards that hose those land types, that can be really funny. But anyway, that's weird niche stuff, and I never talk about that. Okay, we have Liliana of the Dark Realms, but it's Miku. I think this card is just here because we're in a mono black deck and it does all of the things that you want. It finds your swamps, it buffs your stuff, it kills your opponent's creatures, and if you can ult it, then all of your swamps top for a bunch of mana. Great. Sort. Okay. So,
sorry.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, Changeling Outcast works very well.
It does.
That's all. Sorry.
Well, go on. Why does it work very well?
Because it's going to hit them.
It is.
It's going to do the thing.
And it does it for cheap.
Yeah.
Because all of these creatures, especially the cheaper creatures, are geared towards being able to ensure you hit your opponents.
I like this deck. Twilight Prophet. Oh, man. I like this deck a lot.
I think you would have a lot of fun with this deck. The only thing that you would not like about this deck is you'd have to read all of your opponent's cards because you steal 3 of them every turn.
But that's only 3 at a time. That's okay.
Yeah.
I like stealing cards.
Let's see. Outcast. Unblockable. Ethereum Terramander. Flying. And gets bigger later. Cybermat. Skulk. Dorothy Horror has Shadow. Dorothy Voidwalker has Shadow. Etch Slith has Menace. Golem got Skulk.
I like the Lulth. Why not make 2/2/1 spiders with Menace that they then get Death Touch? That seems like a beating.
That's pretty solid.
Making 2 bodies that are incredibly tough to block, and if they do double block it, they're effed. Because they have Menace, I think, naturally, right?
Yeah, they have Menace naturally. You can only give 1 thing Death Touch.
And it's still every turn, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is just, to me, because remind me. I know I didn't like this Planeswalker. Like, I didn't like it. Okay, so you -3, you get your 2 bodies. So you have to wait for at least 2, but probably 3 more things to die to get those back. I just wish this was a little cheaper, but I think I'd be real happy to have it in play with this commander and with what we're trying to do.
I don't like her. I don't think she's like good enough on her own, but she just feels like she synergizes very well with like the Death Touch deal damage thing.
Yeah.
Because they're 2/1s as well. They're not 1/1s that have Menace. They're the Death Touch. You're going to get 2 creatures if they block it. So
right. For me though, what I liked more was just like being able to drop some little guys that can't be blocked at all. So I'm guaranteed to have it, and then using my later turns for like removal or more impact, like to protect the thing that I'm doing or to cast my opponent's spells. Yeah. So this whole first line, all very hard to block. Marian Apprentice, I think, is really, really good here. Because you're also making a bunch of treasures, which you are going to then use to cast your opponent's spells. So this converts all of those into life loss for every opponent. It just incidentally makes another body as well if you have an opponent that doesn't have blockers. Flying, and the Harvester, I think, is maybe here because it is cool new card, but I don't know if there's a ton of synergy with this.
I think the idea is that you are attacking. You can give 1 creature a turn Death Touch. You force someone to have to block it, and you get to return it, and then that's the thing that you do, and then so it just gives you double the creatures.
Yeah, I would be worried that the opponent would just go like, okay, fine, have a treasure and
a card, but
and a card.
I think we're happy then, right?
Yeah.
Like, we want to connect anyway, and this just disincentivizes them from actually blocking. It removes the option from them.
Yeah. It's still kind of conflicted to me because all the creatures we've seen so far are either totally unblockable or really hard to have a blocker for. So I don't know. Maybe as we go through some other things will stick out that make this a little bit better.
It is a graveyard, so like you can also just get creatures if your opponents go after each other. You just get a new creature.
Yeah,
and then you send that creature to its death until you get as many cards as you can, and then
right. I mean, it's like a generically good card.
Yeah.
And it's new and cool. I think braids is great here. I think braids is a really good card in general, and you know that you're going to be able to sacrifice treasures. So that's pretty free for you, and you're either drawing more cards off of those and draining opponents, or you're making them sacrifice their artifacts, which are certainly better than the treasures that you're sacrificing. More unblockable. Gix is nice because there's more card draw for you and incentivizes your opponents to hit each other and not you. Good, get more treasures for hitting opponents and removal if you need it. The Crypt Gas I think is very important here because in mono black, not a lot of ramp, and we are going to be pretty mana hungry since I think you're going to end up with more cards available to you than you can cast.
Yeah.
So doubling your swamp mana is pretty big.
Makes it so you don't ever have to accidentally use treasures to cast things that aren't pip specific.
Exactly. This makes a bunch of flyers. This is unblockable. This makes things that people don't want to block, etc., etc. Nightblade cares about tokens leaving the battlefield, so your treasures are also dealing damage. And then as we go up, it's just more things that are hard to block and things that people don't want to block.
Is this potentially Mirkwood Bats as well?
I think Mirkwood Bats would be excellent here. That was one that I was very surprised to not see. Because you get double triggers off of it. You're making the treasures and then sacrificing them pretty soon. So.
And Ophiomancer and like whatever else.
Right.
And Lolth.
Yeah. Sorceries and instants. We have card draw here. In Night's Whisper and Sign in Blood. Those are cards that you usually will see in mono black decks. I don't know that you need them here. Your commander is drawing you a bunch of cards. And you don't really want to be casting these on early turns. You want to be putting a creature down. I mean, but card draw is only so bad. So like they probably are fine. We'll see some other mono black staples. We have Feed the Swarm and Withering Torment as our only ways to get rid of enchantments. Some good removal. We have Exsanguinate and Torment of Hailfire as our big single spell win the game options, since you might just be building up a bunch of treasures and not using them for anything to eventually be able to just kill the table with one of these X spells. We get to run some more fun removal, like Consuming Corruption, because you're gaining life equal to the number of swamps you control, and we know we've got a bunch of those. And Vats, I think, is a card that people should be playing more of. 4 mana, split second, and then you choose any number of creatures with equal toughness and destroy them. So while it is not... you know that you're always avoiding your own creatures since you make all decisions for this. It wrecks token decks. You just go, great, all of those, and because of the split second, there is no reacting to it. It just resolves, and incidentally, you end up hitting a bunch of stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the card is very good.
Fallout is a crazy set. The price of Fallout is just going up and up and up, and all the cards are quite good.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the collector boosters. The last time, so I did a Whatnot stream the other day, and the last time I sold them for $50 a pack.
Mm-hmm.
They are over $80 a pack now.
Whew.
Like, I saw the cheapest I could find was like $79.99 and sold out.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, even because Warhammer was the first one of like those kind of sets.
But Warhammer didn't have collector boosters, right? It was just precons?
Yes, but I just mean that people are still finding like, oh, wow, this card is also really good and was in that set.
Yeah.
Like, I think all of those sets are going to continue to do that. Granted, the Doctor Who is probably the least of those. I
feel like there was a lot of Doctor Who opened.
Do you think so? More than, I guess, I don't know. I felt like that was also not as popular as some of the other ones, but also
maybe the cards are just, I assumed a lot were open, but maybe they're just not as good, because anytime I go to look up a Doctor card I need, it's like 50 cents a dollar.
Yeah,
Like, there's nothing worth a lot.
I think it was a weaker set overall.
Yeah.
Which is probably why I like it. But artifacts.
No, the reason you like it is because it is a take a lot of action set.
hey, looks like the Warhammer, like some of those decks were pretty ridiculous. I think. Oh yeah, God, and the Aura's deck, that could also take a lot of actions. I don't know about that. I think they all could take a lot of actions. So I like all of them, but Doctor Who was just like the worst of them, so I like it more.
Hammy, you're very jingly. He got a new collar because his collar was getting a little tight, but he's very jingly now.
Artifacts. We've got whatever ramp we can possibly scrape together in mono black. Soul Ring, Wayfarer's Bauble, Felwar Stone, hoping that your opponent has black mana. But also relevant, this helps you to cast your opponent's spells and not have to use treasures.
Yes.
Jet Medallion.
There's a land that does that. We should definitely have that in, right?
We do. Down here we have a City of Brass in our monocolored deck just so that we can
Exotic Orchard.
And Exotic Orchard is the land you're thinking of.
That was the one I was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Artifacts, we're ramping. That's the only way we can find it. And then enchantments, we have like black market connections, make more treasures and do other good stuff. Contamination is a really mean card that I don't see very much, and for good reason. It's like the Black Blood Moon. It just is a little tougher because you always have to sacrifice a creature to keep it in play every turn. But then the only color that anybody can tap for is black. Which is funny because you're also making treasures, which means you are still able to cast the other spells as well. Oubliette. It's been a long time since I've seen an Oubliette played. Don't forget, people, that this shuts down commanders because your opponent cannot choose to put it into the command zone. So they have to get rid of Oubliette in order to get their commander back.
Also, that version's cool.
Yeah. The Beholder one. Agent of the Iron Throne is another way to convert those treasures into life loss for your opponents.
I think of all of the cards for commons and uncommons from that set, that's the one I pull the most.
Agent of the Iron Throne?
Yeah, we use that card a lot.
Yeah, there's one of the players on the show tends to play a lot of like black base, like Orzhov or Rakdos kind of sacrifice your stuff strategies where they like to, they really enjoy draining their opponents out.
Who would do that?
So yeah, I don't know. I guess we end up pulling this card a lot. Okay, and then we have some extra card draw. Call of the Ring, Greed, Phyrexian Arena. Yeah, that is the base of our deck. Oh, we of course have Cabal Coffers, handful of swamps, a few ways to make other colors to cast other spells, and Urza's Cave, which is our second copy of Cabal Coffers. Okay. So we didn't have a specific goal for this one. So here are my thoughts. Get ready. The first one is not me at all. I don't think you need so much ramp in this. And this does not have much ramp anyway.
Do you need to lay down?
If you look at what the deck wants to do, you want to be able to get max value out of Rev. And ideally, you're doing it as soon as she comes out. So I want to be able to play creature on 1, creature on 2, creature on 3, drop Rev, hit 3 opponents. If the ramp was better, maybe that would work out, but we're in mono black. So like, I don't want Wayfarer's Bauble. That's wasting my 1-drop and my 2-drop, and it comes in tapped, so I can't even like try and then put a 1-drop out.
I agree with Wayfarer's Bauble. I still like keeping in all of like the 2 mana-y things because I want to be able to cast a lot of those spells that we're getting off the top very, very aggressively. And I want to keep the commander on board. This deck really does want that, so paying commander tax is really useful. So I agree, but I wouldn't go too hard in taking them out.
I would take out the Wayfarer's Bauble and the Thought Vessel. Because this is making colorless mana, so we're not able to use this to like turn 2 Thought Vessel and play a 1-drop. And I don't think I'm worried about having too many cards in hand.
I mean, we might be if we're hitting our opponents and playing their cards.
I'm still not too concerned. I'm happy to discard 1 or 2 because if I'm casting my opponent's stuff over mine, that means their stuff is real good. I wouldn't be worried about this card. I'm with you. I would probably still keep Felwar Stone. I would probably keep Jet Medallion. But I for sure would cut the Bauble and the Thought Vessel for other things. In fact, I would cut them for more 1-drops. In a deck that really wants to be able to get through for free, there are so many other 1-drops that that are hard to block. That's the most important thing for me. I feel like would be having a 1-drop that is evasive, and we only have 2 in this deck. There's like Fairy Dream Thief, which was in Wild to Veldrain, which is a 1/1 flyer for 1, and it surveils when it enters, and you can exile from your graveyard to draw a card.
Wasn't there a one in All Will Be One that was incredibly difficult to deal with? For some reason, it might be white, but I could have swore there was a black one that infected as well. I just remember like losing to it all the time. Maybe it was 2 mana, and maybe the white one was 1 mana.
I think that's it. I think that's the case. But honestly, I'll take anything. Give me a handful of 1-drops that are evasive, so that I'm guaranteed to have that every game. There's like Vampire Cutthroat, which is a 1/1. I think has Skulk and Lifelink. But like, yeah, anything. Give me that. We're pretty okay at 2. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But that
That was the one I was thinking.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Pestle and Siphoner was 2. There was a white 1-drop as well. But as soon as you said like evasive black creature, that's the first one that came to my mind.
But yeah, pack this thing full of 1s and 2s that are evasive. Since you know that they are converting into a treasure and a card every turn that Rev is on the board.
Or they're trading with like bunny tokens, depending. I mean, if they're not evasive, like there can't be that many 1-drop black evasive creatures, right?
I think there's certainly enough to fill this deck out with them.
I feel like black creatures specifically don't have a ton of flying and unblockable in the 1-drop slot.
Oh, it doesn't like my other stuff. Can I sort this if it's... What? Oh, that's because I put it in wrong. That's why it doesn't like it. Okay. Like, I'm happy if it's like these draft comments. Like 1, 2, let's see. We are running this 3, 4, 5.
Oh yeah, I forgot about iTwitch.
6. Not that. That is bad. 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's already enough. 9, 10, yeah. Load that thing up.
There is more than I thought.
Some things to consider in this deck as well. Bubbling Muck. Again, we talked about how you really want a lot of mana for this, and it's just High Tide, but for black. It's when you tap a swamp, it makes 2, and it costs 1 mana. It's a sorcery. From the clue set, Mastermind Plum seems good here. Attacks, you exile a card from a graveyard. If it was an artifact, you make a treasure. But importantly, whenever you cast a spell, if mana from a treasure was spent to cast it, you draw and you lose a life. You're almost always going to be able to do that. Granted, I don't think the deck has trouble drawing cards. Like, I think you will usually have stuff to play, but...
Because you're stealing them.
Because you're stealing them.
Yeah, you draw a card, play 2 of their spells, and do nothing. And the spells you're playing might be draw more cards.
Right. Also, ninjutsu, I think, is really good here. You're already running a deck full of little creatures that are evasive. So running anything with ninjutsu, it's going to be really easy to get those to hit your opponents. And Nashi is particularly strong. You're casting more of your opponent's spells, but these you're paying life instead of mana. I was very surprised to not see a Greaves in this deck. Because that's one thing that Black's not particularly good at, is protecting your creatures on the board. You can get them back, but that seems perfect for Rev, and to be able to just drop another evasive creature and throw the Greaves on that.
If you're running light, you want to be able to like rip a, outcast or whatever and still get the value.
Right. Why not the big version of Marionette Apprentice, Marionette Master? That gives you, because you're not doing a lot of damage in combat to your opponents. All these creatures are pretty small. So I assume the way that you are finishing the game out is by...
Value!
Yeah, it's like value drain. You use Nightblade, you use Marionette Apprentice.
And their cards. Value.
And their cards.
Yeah, you get the big cards off of their deck, and then you play them.
Right. But if for some reason your opponent is playing a deck full of garbage and none of their cards are useful to you, you want to make sure that you have that avenue. And these are 2 cards, but I think your Mirkwood Bats suggestion and then the Marionette Master also help you to just finish games.
Yeah.
What does this Victimize get? We have a Victimize here. You sacrifice a creature, you reanimate 2. But what are we getting?
It could just be an up trade. Like getting 2 creatures that can now hit your opponents. Like,
yeah,
it's even money.
It's like, I think it's fine, but it feels a little out of place since we don't have big targets for it. Like, we only have 3 creatures that cost more than 4, and most of our creatures are evasive, so the only way they're dying is if somebody hits it with a removal spell. And at that point, like, do we really need those back?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, I don't love it, but I do think it's just fine. It's just like you're sacrificing Solemn, getting a trigger off the Morbid, getting 2 evasive creatures, then getting more stuff off of your... It just seems just like a value-y play, but it doesn't seem strong enough in this particular deck, unless you're getting back, like, Grey Merchant or Shieldred would be cool, and then you've got some bigger hitters you want to keep on board that you maybe want just a chance to run back. Because there aren't a lot of high-impact creatures.
Yeah. I think that's a slot that you could play around with if you're looking for some changes.
Agreed.
And I think the last thing I will point out is this is a monocolored deck. So this is a monocolored deck that produces treasures. And you are running 35 lands, and that is so responsible of you. That is just the best.
Boo!
Especially since...
I'm only booing because I just don't want you to be happy.
Especially because you're taking the suggestions of the decked out team and cutting this Wayfarer's Bauble and this Slot Vessel. You don't have a lot of ramp. You don't really need it. But you want to make sure that you're guaranteed to hit your land drops, especially if you're playing a deck like this on a commander show, and getting stuck on lands means that you just have to wait and then say, well, I missed my land drop in your interview. I feel like I'm behind.
Listen, you build a good chunk of those decks.
Yes,
that I
keep hands that have more than 2 lands in them.
I'm a limited player. It's hard.
What limited are you playing where you're keeping 2 lands?
2 lands on the draw? You're throwing that back more often than not? Even 2 lands on the play. Like, we're not mulliganing in limited. Cardboard is worth more usually.
I don't know.
I agree. Mulliganing on 2 has become better than it was, but it used to always be that the cardboard was worth more than missing a 3rd or 4th land for a turn or 2.
Those are the thoughts that I have for this deck.
I win plenty, thank you. I will just leave that there. I'm doing fine on the show. Power level wise, is this something that we would play on the show?
Yeah, I think this is great. It is a potentially really powerful commander. Some people have suggested it may be CEDH viable. But I think this does some pretty fair stuff with it. Playing your opponent's spells is always fun and interesting. Yeah, I like it. I don't think there would be much you'd have to change about this.
All right. Now, if it were to be played on the show, dibs.
I don't know. I like playing my opponent's stuff.
I like value and stealing cards.
Yeah, I don't think I would win the fight for it, but I would I'd throw my hat in to try
this deck.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it is sort of a split between the two of us. And you can see the different directions that we wanted to take it with our recommendations too. So it could go either way. And if you were to tune it up and change it to your taste, I don't think I'd like it anymore. And vice versa, because it'd be full of things like Lolth. And cards that made me happy. A 2-powered menacing Death Toucher that does stuff when it hits. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I don't care about making creatures that are attacking at turn 5. I've got the creatures I want on the board. I played my evasive 1 and 2 and 3 drop, and now we go to town and we cast everybody else's spells.
Board clears happen. You need new stuff. And she draws you cards. She does so much. She's so good.
If people got to board clear my 1 and 2 and 3 drop,
and then you have no more.
Then no, we play the other ones.
Or a Lolth.
Yeah. Or we made a bunch of treasures. Then we have plenty of mana to play stuff.
It's a good suggestion. Red, thank you so much for the submission. Thank you so much for being a patron. We really appreciate your support and helping make Decked Out possible every single week. I think we have, one more list?
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up, we've got a list coming from Kelvor, another one of our very, very long-time patrons, and we have some more Doctor Who cards for you, Veggie.
Yes, we do. This is one of the few possibilities from the set that I have not tried to build yet.
Because I have not seen these cards before.
Mm-hmm. This is Jenny Flint and Madame Vastra, the human lady and lizard alien
detective
couple from the show. There's a lot going on with these. So Madame Vastra, they have a partner, so you have the both in the command zone. She's a 3/3 that must be blocked if able. And when a creature that she deals damage to dies, you make a clue and a food. That's a lot. But then Jenny Flint, 2/2 first strike, training, so when a larger creature like Madame Vastra attacks with her, you put a +1 counter on her, and whenever you sacrifice a clue or a food, you put a +1 counter on another target creature you control. You know, like Madame Vastra, who is then still larger than Jenny. So just the two of them are able to swing, get bigger, and leave you with like a clue or a food behind.
Ooh, so they make clues because they're detectives.
Yes.
And then they make food because the one that makes the food is a lizard and she eats them. And then when she eats them, she gets bigger and makes Jenny bigger. Right,
through their combat training.
Yeah.
And their relationship.
Synergy.
Yeah.
Story? Not synergy. What's the word I'm looking for?
Well, they also are synergistic, but I don't know what the word you're looking for is.
Me neither. Lore! That's not it either, but that's closer. All right. Now, let's talk about the cards in the deck.
Yes. Okay, so before I looked at the deck list, I was like, okay, I'm interested to see what direction that Kelvor took this, because this is very wide open. The number of things that you can do with this pairing is one of the reasons that I haven't built it yet.
Flavorful.
Flavor, yeah.
There you go. That's the word.
Because you have because combat is important. Madame Vastra's ability that has to be blocked, and Jenny Flint's training both rely on combat. You can also do clue and food synergy because you are making them and getting value from sacrificing them. Or you can, like, there's you also have +1/+1 counter synergy. Jenny puts them on herself and puts them on other creatures. So getting that balance right, I think is something that's pretty difficult. So let's see how that goes. We have a number of 1-drop mana dorks, which allows you to then just Jenny Flint on turn 2, Madame Vastra on turn 3. And I do think that this deck wants to just like get them on board, get them running, not wait at all. Because they're like not big enough of a threat that somebody is going to waste early removal on them. And the longer that they keep doing their thing, the more that you get out of them. We have then immediately a bunch of clue related stuff. Erdwall Illuminator doubles your investigate, your first investigate for the turn. Lannis allows you to investigate when anything enters and then convert them into a steal from an opponent. Piper Wright makes clues and gets bigger when you sacrifice them. So yeah, and then we also have like Tireless Tracker that cares about clues. Martha Jones that cares about clues. Academy Manufactor, of course, is going to be slammed in every deck ever that uses clues, foods, and treasures. Kellen investigates. Senator Peacock turns everything into clues and cares about when you sacrifice clues. Tangle Trove Kelp also converts your clues into big attackers. So that's a big chunk of the deck dedicated to the clue synergies. But we also have like Peregrine Took that makes more foods when you make tokens and then can turn those into card draws. That though I think is as far as the food synergies go. On top of that, there's also all of the +1/+1 counter synergies. So we have Kami of Whispered Hopes to double any counters it could put on things, and if it gets put on the Kami, then you're tapping for more mana. Kodama, the West Tree cares about modified creatures, and the +1/+1 counters are the only way that you're doing that in this deck. Danny Pink, which is the new deck that I plan to be building, will draw you cards whenever you put counters on a creature for the first time. So that is probably going to be at least 2 triggers per turn. Jenny Flint putting them on herself and whenever you sacrifice a clue or a food. Halana and Elena also helping out with counter synergy. Herald of Ilarg counter synergy. Kappa Cannoneer counter synergy and cares about the tokens that you've made. So we've got a balance of doing all of the things here, or mostly those being clues and +1/+1 counters.
Yep. The Thundering Raiju as well is really cool for counters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're probably going to have most of your things that are modified, so that's big damage. I like the Aki Bottle Squad to give you additional combats, because it's what untap all modified creatures you control. That is very likely to happen because of Jenny Flint. And then the additional combats means more things that Madame Vastra's killing and more training triggers from Jenny. Only 3 sorceries. Ramp, board wipe. Simple. Instance is all of our interaction. Counter spells, creature removal, cyber conversion, and chaos warp. The Inspire and Call here is pretty nice because all of your creatures are going to have counters on them. So this saves everything and draws you cards on top of that. Artifacts.
Wow. Yeah, more counters with Great Henge and Ozolith synergies.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot.
Yeah. This is a deck where you get to run 500 Year Diary. Taps for mana equal to the number of clues that you have. That's probably a lot. World Walker Helm is nice because every time that you're making an artifact token, you're also making a map, and it can then copy any artifact tokens that you have. Now, I want to point this out. We are in a green deck, but we are running a set of talismans here, which is fine, But I do like to get picky about ramp, as we know. My first instinct was, well, why do you want to run these? Why wouldn't you just throw in like Nature's Lore, 3 visits? Because we have lands that give us nice flexibility with those cards. And I think in a bubble, land ramp is better than artifact ramp. Artifact ramp can be blown up. Sometimes they help other players. The lands are very hard to interact with and give you more flexibility because you can grab stuff like Commercial District to give you surveil triggers, or
you don't have to keep paying the ping every time you use it for colored mana.
Right. However, taking a closer look, I think these are intentional. Because we have cards like Displaced Dinosaurs, which turns any historic permanents that you play into 7/7s. You have Cyberdrive Awakener, which animates all of your non-creature artifacts into 4/4 flyers. Kappa Cannoneer, which cares about artifacts entering. So in this build, I think that is the right choice to have these artifact ramp instead of land ramp, since there's additional synergy there.
Makes sense.
Enchantments, we have get more counter stuff. Actually, a bunch of it. Hardened Scales, Increased Talent, Branching Evolution, the Master Chef, and Doubling Season. All will be one, helps you to convert all of that into meaningful ways to end the game. And then the Heaven Sent here, I don't think that this has... I don't think this is any synergy with the deck at all. I think it's just fun because it's flavorful and more Doctor Who stuff. I mean, you investigate, but it's not a great rate. And it's I don't know that in general I want to spend 2 mana for this effect.
Is it whenever you sack? What does she give the counters for? Whenever you sack,
clue or food.
Specifically, a clue or a food. So
yeah. So it does. You get 2 clues out of it. So like over the course of 3 turns for 2 mana, you get 2 clues and damage to each opponent, and possibly a new 7 if it's super late in the game. But I think the combination of it having some synergy and it being like a fun Doctor Who card that goes along with this means I would keep this. We have a very responsible 35 lands from Kelvor, who usually is the one telling me, don't tell me about my land count, and it works out for me. And I'm like, I'm not lucky enough for that, but I'm very happy with this land count for sure. Okay, let's talk about this a little bit.
This are the commanders.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of bigger creatures for sure, but usually I'm not seeing Great Henge in quite so many colors. Are the creatures here big enough to justify it? I think the answer is yes. I like a Great Henge, but like, I just thought it was an interesting card to see.
I think it's fine. I think it's one of those cards. It's like,
with all the modified triggers like Mirror Style Master, it's got a lot of extra bonuses, even if you're not using it for its intended purpose. Like you could just slam it, and then Mirrored Style Mentor will come in later and do crazy things, even if you aren't taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I think the card is just generically good enough that you can put it in most decks and it is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not getting like the full 7 like mana reduction, I think you're happy to pay, like, honestly, I would pay 4 or 5 for this, like, and be happy about it. So,
well, certainly 4.
Yeah, certainly 4.
The question is when it starts being like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think I'm still happy to pay 5, but we know that we're getting like, let's say if we play Madame Vastra on turn 4, you can swing. You end up with 2 3/3s. Yeah, I even if the numbers don't look good, the card is good enough to play in most decks.
I agree. And I think the cards are big enough because you have like Kappa Cannoneer, other +1/+1 counters,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't have like Vorinclex or anything super big out. I usually see them more so in decks that are trying to capitalize on large creatures, cheap mana,
Mm-hmm.
which this is not doing. This is investing a ton of time and effort into making smaller creatures bigger, to which then it's usually a little too late for the thing. But
yeah, I think you don't get max value out of it for sure, but the value of the value of Great Henge is just so big.
Good enough on its own.
Good enough.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty well balanced as far as the things that you're trying to get the deck to do. However, there is one angle that is missing from this, I think.
Did we have an assignment?
We didn't. We did not. I don't know if the deck has... I don't know if the deck in general, like not just specifically this build, but overall, if you can really hit all of these angles. But something to point out. Madame Vastra does not specify combat damage. Whenever a creature dealt damage by Madame Vastra's turn dies, create a clue and a food.
So fight spells?
Fight spells. The only one we have is Inscription of Abundance. So I think maybe swapping out some of the like the Cyber Conversion is flavorful, and I think it's a really good removal spell in general since it shuts down commanders. But swapping that out for fight might get you more value and more synergy from what you're trying to do with your commander. I think there's some things that to maybe get repeatable fights and things like that, but yeah, just some ways to I know. Oh, Chandra's Ignition would be super duper cool in this, because you're building up a big Madame Vastra, and then you go, great, deal that much damage to every creature and every opponent. This deck is not going to be building a creature big enough to kill the table, to kill opponents, but it's probably going to wipe the board, and then give you a fat stack of clues and foods.
Does that thing, it doesn't deal damage equal to her power? She deals damage to each creature?
I'm pretty sure, but that's
the wording on that would be very relevant. I think you're right.
Creature you control deals damage, yes. But yes, that we definitely needed to check, because
there are cards that, like, the thing deals the damage. Like, the fling itself is what's dealing the damage, not the creature. Yeah.
Yeah, I think would be a really fun card in this deck.
I think even some of the bite spells also say, deal damage to creature equal to target creature's power.
Yeah, some of the new ones so that you can't get blown out by removal.
Yes, and then that would not work for Madame Vastra.
Right. Yeah, so exploring that avenue a little bit more could be interesting. And some other stuff that you could try in this deck. This seems like a really good junk winder deck. Whenever a token enters, you stun an opponent's creature. Or actually, I think it's any permanent.
That seems good.
So it's generally good. You're going to be producing a lot of tokens, but also it means that you can cherry pick the blocker that they have to use for Madame Vastra. Because you can just be like, great, I'll tap all of your blockers except for the thing that for sure dies that you need for your combo or whatever, and then swing, and it's forced to block. You're also producing a lot of artifact tokens specifically, and you're in red, so a Reckless Fireweaver or Hedron Detonator, any of those creatures that are like, great, whenever an artifact enters, deal 1 to all opponents.
Yeah.
Seems very good, because this build is certainly leaning into the artifact tokens more
which I like
than the other angles. Yeah,
I think that's very cool. And with like Tireless Tracker and Took, and I think that's very cool.
And if we're going down that path anyway,
Gilded Goose. Where's the goose?
Gilded Goose, yeah, that would be totally usable here. And it's it's a good, what is it, Flample? It's at least flying.
Goose?
Oh, I'm thinking Goose Mother. Yes, Gilded Goose definitely, because it's good early because it allows us to play Jenny Flint on turn 3, and then later on it makes foods that we're going to care about. Yes, wrong Goose.
So I get a point.
Yeah.
Woo.
The other Lannis would be really good because it likes clues and +1/+1 counters. When you put counters on it, he investigates. Jenny Flint puts the counter on Lannis. Investigate. Then you sacrifice the clue. Triggers Jenny and Lannis to put counters on stuff. That seems great. Jaheira, all of your tokens tap for mana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clues don't even have to tap to use their ability, so that's free. This is, I think, a very fun and specific card for this deck. Last Night Together. It's a Doctor Who card. You choose 2 creatures, so you choose your commanders. You untap them, you put counters on them, they get Vigilance, Indestructible, Haste, and you get additional combat. That's a whole lot for 5 mana. I think the last card I felt would be really good here was Tarion Soulcleaver from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. It's a 1 mana equipment. Whenever an artifact or creature, it's at least, I think, I should probably just bring the card out. That would make sense. Tarion Soulcleaver. Whenever another artifact or creature is put in the graveyard, you put a counter on a equipped creature. So all of your tokens that you're making, and it gives them vigilance. Like this is it just, that's so much for a 1 mana equipment in this deck.
In addition to it synergizing with all of your like +1/+1 counter synergies,
exactly.
Right? Like it's gonna.
Yeah, harden scales with that, and then like it's. I think that would be really good here.
Thundering Raiju, mirror style mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice.
I think the last thought overall, if you can fit it, these creatures are going to combat constantly, and they will end up very large. It seems almost a waste to not also have a way to give them trample. I think the deck is pretty tight. Like, I don't think there's a lot of wiggle room because you're trying to balance so many things. But if there are some convenient ways to get the trample in as well to put commander damage pressure on, that seems good.
Like maybe a Garruk's Uprising instead of this. It's a constant way, so even if they're removing the commanders, you still get it. It's not like a one-time deal like some of the enchantments and stuff.
Right.
I don't know what else would be a more lasting way to get trample onto them.
I mean, even just like a Rancor.
Yeah, Rancor comes back.
Yes,
but there's the one in standard, but that doesn't come back. It just draws you a card when the creature dies.
Audacity.
It's still good,
mm-hmm.
But in a game like this where my commanders are going to combat all the time, I think I want something that lasts a bit longer than that.
Yeah, and that's the main thing is nothing immediately came to mind where I was like, oh, for sure it's that card. So I think this would be my lowest priority of the things that we've discussed is like if you find convenient ways that to be able to give them trample, or just like, oh, I found this card that like replaces I don't know, I found a fight spell that also gives trample. I think there is one like that perfect. Ways to sneak trample in there as well, but yeah,
that makes sense. All right, overall, Veggie, what do you think? Would this deck be power level appropriate for the show?
Yep. Oh yeah.
And who would be its pilot?
I think there's a lot. I think a lot of people would be happy with this. I mean, it's doing a lot of funky synergy kind of things that I think I would really enjoy. This is also go to combat and hit your opponents and make them deal with it.
I like the counter synergies.
Right, counter synergies.
Sacrificing artifacts to put counters. I'm a big fan of like Raiju, Mirror Style Mentor, Vorinclex. I think this was the Praetor I wanted to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of cards I like, and I also really like the Lord of the Rings stuff. And food is like one of my favorite decks. But I do agree that like there are some other aspects here that would be a lot more suited towards your play style, the blue ones specifically. So this is probably another one where it kind of splits right down the middle. I had a really good time with the Tangle Kelp for Halloween. I had the detective deck.
Yes.
And I really did enjoy it. It was very, very fun. This one is the one that makes them 6/6s, and there was another card that gave them all +4/+4. And that was really cool.
Yeah, the double up on this and Rise and Shine. Was there a Rise and Shine in this? It's a sorcery. No. That seems like a good card in the deck too.
Make all of your clues 4/4s or 10/10s if you've got the Tangle trope Kelv. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll call this one a draw, and we'll fight over it, rock paper scissors, if it's ever submitted for the show. To wrap things up, thank you so very, very much, Kelvor, for being a patron and supporting the show and helping us stay weekly. I enjoyed this deck list, and don't forget, jump into the Discord, talk about any of the suggestions. We always love seeing updates and things like that you guys might do to the deck afterwards. For those of you guys who are watching, if you guys aren't patrons but would like to get your deck on the show, we are doing another one of these deck techs on Saturday. There's still a few more spaces. We do them every single month as well. If you guys sign up for the appropriate tier, you can submit a deck list every single month to hang out and chat with us. Even if you're not here, you can always catch them in the VODs. We are currently working on a goal to stay weekly, and we are a couple patrons short. We're also going to be doing a Kickstarter in March, which hopefully will help us stay weekly. But currently we are a little short on being able to hire the editors to stay weekly for Decked Out. So if you guys are thinking about supporting the channel, now would be a good time to do so. We were able to stay weekly all last year, but unfortunately that might not be in the cards if we can't pay our editors. So take advantage of some of these really cool perks, get some signed tokens, some spell table games. We're actually playing spell table games all this week with patrons. We have 6 games scheduled. And you guys can always support us by checking out our sponsors as well. That's a big part of how we're able to do this. So check out the Moxfield, all of these wonderful decks that you see that are submitted from our patrons, you guys can see, as well as all of the lists from Decked Out. You guys can see those in the description of this video. And finally, the other sponsor of this particular segment is Tales of Adventure, a great place for you guys to get all of your singles. They're also starting to do more sealed product, and you guys get 5% off if you use code DECKEDOUT at checkout. It helps us a ton. We don't get direct sales kickbacks, but they do sponsor every single episode, which helps us make those episodes. So if you guys are picking up cards anyway, that's a great way to support us to ensure that we continue getting their support. Veggie, tell people before we log off, what have you been working on? Where can people find other Veggie content?
I've been editing gameplay for this show called Decked Out. It's a commander show that I think everybody here would really enjoy.
It's pretty mid.
Yeah, I don't know. You can find me on the internet. That's where I live.
Mostly specializes in shorts and doing funny, silly brews on his own YouTube channel, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok. So make sure you guys, search Veggie in other places. And I know a lot of people from Decked Out haven't been able to find me much and are concerned that I'm not doing my YouTube channel as much for drafting. But you guys can still find me on Twitch and on all of those social medias as well, Blue Sky, Twitter, and I will be doing more stuff on my YouTube channel in the new year. All right. Thank you guys so very much. We'll see you for another live deck tech in just a few days. It'll be noon PST on Saturday this week. So we look forward to seeing you guys then. Yeah. And have a good night. Bye, guys. End the YouTube stream.